Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this live chit chat, the final chit chat for 2021, where I'm joined by some incredible classroom teachers, school leaders, and intervention specialists. And this evening, we're going to be hearing from them in regard to their implementation process of structured literacy, and also how they have worked to align their practice in structured literacy in the classroom and aligning that to intervention practice. So a huge welcome to Kieran Wilson from Ladbroke School in Christchurch, Julie Walker from Queenstown Primary School, Megan Pentecost from Martinborough School, and Teresa Kinlock from Willow Park School in Auckland. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So let's kick off with you first, Kieran. If you wouldn't mind just taking a couple of minutes to introduce yourself and Ladbroke School to us, and perhaps if you can share with us how long you've been implementing structured literacy for and where you're at in the journey.
Well, we've been on this journey for quite a while, actually, probably about 4 years, I think. I am the DP there and the SENCO and the gate coordinator and the literacy teacher as well. Super busy, but really cool job. We've got about 150 children at our school. We're a little country school, and it's awesome. Best school. So we've been on the journey for quite a while. And did you say implementation processes, Carla?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were lucky. We had a connection. Our principal has had a long connection with you, Carla. And so one of the things that we did quite early on was started to look at the brain and how the brain learns. And we sort of started with that and did some PD around that. It's been quite a long process for us. Like I say, we've been doing this for about 4 years. Carla joined us at our school following our PD in Australia to do with neurodiversity and the brain. And Carla, you ran a parent session. We were able to sit in on that, and that planted the seed for us. Made us ask some questions, and we started the process of unlearning, because we've got a very experienced staff here, and we needed to get back into the sandpit and just forgive ourselves a little bit once we discovered what we had been doing faithfully for many years for our children. Perhaps there was a better way. So we looked at moving away from balanced literacy, whole language approaches, and then we did some more PD, both here with you, Carla, and in Australia further. For us, it's just been a huge pedagogical shift that our whole team has taken together. We've been completely turning up on its head everything that we thought we knew. We started off with looking just at developing a few people in the school, making that shift, sort of working with just a few children, just taking it really slowly because it is such a big area. We kind of worked at the tier 3 level, and then the following year looked at as we upskilled, then at a tier 1 level with all teachers teaching all children across the school, and still maintaining an intervention for our most needy children. All that came from the data that we got. Only in the latter stages, sort of this year, have we really, I think, brought everything together, working with tier 1, 2 and 3, and having all the systems sort of smoothly going along. But we made the big pedagogical shift, which was the major thing for us. It's been super exciting, seen amazing changes.
Cool, awesome. So you started with dipping your toes in, increasing leaders' knowledge first, and then going to kind of building your knowledge as the SENCO and the literacy leader, and then you moved forward from there. What about you, Megan? Megan from Martinborough.
Well,
nice little bit of alliteration there. Did you notice that?
Isn't it? We, like Kieran, we started about 4 years ago, but unlike Kieran, we started with a couple of very passionate teachers. So it was myself and my beautiful colleague, Monica, and we just knew that our instruction wasn't aligning with the cognitive science that she and I had done so much research about. So we started off by coming and listening to you, Carla, at Gladstone School, and I think that was late 2017. We also made contact with Liz Kane because we'd been to one of her PD sessions, and that just got us reading and listening and watching. So we needed to know about the science of reading. We involved ourselves in and delved into Louisa Moats, David Kilpatrick, Stanislas de Haen, Tumner and Goff, the Institute of Multisensory Literacy. We just completely filled our heads with it and knew that this is what we wanted to do as a school. So we were lucky in that our principal said, yep, go for it. And we started on the scope and sequence of Liz Kane. We bought some decodable books and we began our journey just with our new entrant year 1 class. And we became very vocal. We became so vocal, telling everyone this is what we should be doing. Please come and watch what our children can do. And so it grew and it grew and grew.
Megan, can I just ask you there, when you say you became very vocal, telling people of what your children could do, what did you notice that your students could do that they might not have previously been able to do in years gone past?
Yeah, well, both of us had taught new entrants and year 1s for a long time, and what we saw was children taking on the learning of the sounds and the tools that they needed to use to work out words. And along with that, we saw the absolute engagement of our children, so particularly our boys. So we're a school that, whilst I think we're rated a Decile 8 school, we've got a lot of boys and we're probably functioning at about a Decile 5 or 6. So some quite lower socioeconomic needs within the school. And these boys were succeeding. These boys were working out their CV words, their CVC words, and starting along a reading journey. And these were the boys that traditionally they would have needed reading recovery, they would have floundered, and we found that we had something that was going to work with them. So once we were listened to, and once we got the interest of everyone, we got everyone on board and we looked at other schools. So we spent some time down in Queenstown. So we went to Queenstown School and we went to Holy Family School in Wanaka, and we could see what we could do if we could push this out through the whole school. And that was what we knew we had to do. We had to build the knowledge of the teachers, and we had to let these teachers know what they could do with our children who were coming through with a structured literacy base, how they were going to fit into a balanced literacy classroom. And so that was our challenge. And by coming on board with Ideal, we were able to push it out through the whole school, which was a massive achievement and a huge, huge success. And whilst we're still at the very early stages of our journey, we've got the whole school on board along with our teacher aides and a real commitment.
Well done.
To what we're doing.
One of the questions that I often get asked, Megan, or the observations that I make around the perception of structured literacy from people who sit on the periphery and maybe look, and I'm going to say sometimes throw stones, is that structured literacy runs the risk of being boring and repetitive. What would your response be to a question like that around, how can we get it out there to people that actually it is far from that?
I think anyone who came into a classroom where we were using a structured literacy approach would see that it's not boring. It's very fast. So it's fast moving, it's very explicit, it builds every day on previous knowledge. It moves very quickly for the children so they're not bored. And I think the fact that they will be a decodable book will be put in front of them and they can read it, they're not bored. Often I get from some of the naysayers, comprehension isn't being taught. And I'll use an example of the little No-Mo book. So here's a little 5-year-old who's been at school 6 weeks. They're building comprehension constantly through a book like that. You know, where is Mo? What's he doing? What's he up to? Where's he hiding? What does he look like? All of that comes through right at the very, very foundational stages of structured literacy.
One of the things that I know I could say about my own practice is that prior to learning about structured literacy, I actually wasn't aware of the fact that teaching reading or building reading comprehension was actually an equation of decoding times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. I didn't know that until I actually learned about structured literacy. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, the perception. Thanks, Megan. Let's go to you, Julie, and hear about a little bit about Queenstown Primary and what the implementation process has looked like there.
Well, we started at the very end of 2019, and it came about because I had been to a course with you, Carla, in 2017, and at that stage you were talking about and launching an assessment tool for new entrants. And having been a new entrant teacher for many years, and also being a reading recovery teacher, I knew that there were gaps. There were students that we just were not reaching. We weren't doing our very best for them, and there must be a better way. And at that stage, you had told us that you were going to be running a course in 2018, and I signed myself and another teacher up to go, another new entrant teacher up to go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, so I sent another staff member. And when I got back from leave a term later, they were just completely engrossed and on board, and just couldn't understand how they had taught reading before. You know, how did we actually teach reading? So and of course, having these new assessment tools gave us so much more information about what these new little people knew or didn't know. So it was our way in to our journey with you, Carla, and I took my drive to the senior management team and said, we have to get on board with structured literacy throughout the school. And by the end of 2019, you came down, you did a teacher-only day with us, and our whole school, all our staff have been on board since then on this journey. And it's been a slow journey, but it's been one that has given teachers knowledge that it's like everything, what you don't know, you don't know. And when all of a sudden you're awakened to what you do need to know, it makes it such a huge journey for everybody. But it's been so exciting, so rewarding, and the results from our data have been incredibly good.
I don't think I shared with you, but I actually got a shout out from your board chair on a women's business Facebook group that I'm in, Julie, and she posted this beautiful post about the difference that is being made at Queenstown Primary by your staff, and how she'd just been to in some kind of event. I don't know if it was the board, obviously a board meeting or some staff board function that you'd had, and she just said the buzz amongst your staff because of where your data was sitting was just incredible. So well done, because I know you wrote that board report that you would have shared with her. So
yes, and
great.
That was how I went and presented that at the board meeting, and that probably she had reflected on that.
So important to get all of those stakeholders on board, right? Pardon the pun. Like, it really is important to get them on board and knowing and understanding what you're doing.
And I think that the big thing is, if anybody walks through the school, they can see it that the students are living it, the teachers are living it,
Mm.
and it's just an amazing experience to walk through and hear the students and hear the teachers.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie. And in your role now, what do you do now?
So I taught, as I said, I taught new entrants for a very long time, and then I had 2 years in the year 3-4 area of the school, which was also a very good learning experience for me to see students coming from the junior school into that area of the school and the gaps that there were there. And at the end of last year, our principal, Fiona Kavanagh, offered me a position as intervention teacher for this year. And it was proposed as a trial year to see how it would go. And so I've spent the year learning and relearning, and revisiting and reflecting, and having over 60 students in intervention groups from year 3 to year 8. And seeing those students absolutely absorbed and engaged and focused, and their confidence. These were the tier 3 students in our school, and just their level of engagement and their knowledge, increase in knowledge has been phenomenal. So I'm very lucky.
So have you got your job for next year?
Yes, I'm very lucky to be back in next year. So that's great. I'd really like to do a better job so the role's not needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's our goal, isn't it, long term, to move those numbers, to reduce those numbers that sit at tier 3 and kind of bump them down to tier 2 and then have more children. So for those people who are listening to us, tier 3 is what we would call kind of withdrawal from the classroom for intervention, and tier 2 would be potentially in or out of class, perhaps repetition with a learning assistant, and tier 1 is mainstream classroom teaching. So Teresa, let's go to you and tell us about your journey into structured literacy at Willow Park School in Auckland.
Sure. So Willow Park School, we're in Auckland on the North Shore. We have around 700 students by the end of the year, so we are a bigger school. Our journey probably started 3 years ago. I was a new entrant teacher, and I remember sitting there and I had a group of children, and I thought, I'm a pretty good new entrance teacher. It's like where I specialize and what my passion is. And I think I'm a pretty great teacher of reading. And I had this little group of kids, and they struggled with reading. And we had, part of my inquiry was, well, maybe if I engaged with the families better and we had some activities for the families to do at home, that would make a difference. Is whānau engagement the thing that's missing for our school? And surprise, surprise, it wasn't. They still couldn't read, and we had some really engaged families who were working alongside us. And then I started looking into structured literacy and learning more about how the brain learns to read. And that little group that I had of children, we actually, they learned to read through structured literacy, with me not really knowing a lot, reflecting on it now, but, using decodables, teaching sounds in a sequence, I'm much better at it now, but using those things that I knew, and then seeing these children reading and just going, and the parents going, they can, it was amazing. And so it was really exciting for me and for the families. And then the year after, we got the opportunity to be a part of the University of Canterbury Better Start to Literacy study. And we were one of their schools that they worked with, and they trained the year 0 teachers and how to teach literacy using a structured literacy approach and using rich picture books. So we did that for a year, and that was really hard, because actually it's like you're saying, a lot of they're all very skilled, experienced teachers, and you're asking them to change the way they've done something for a long time. And then what happened, we finished that year and we got some great data and that, but actually we went, well, what next? Because actually what happens to those children after that first period of time? What happens? Do they go back into a balanced literacy classroom? And so that's when and all along that actually we had been attending Learning Matters courses, Liz Kane courses, any information we could find. We were gathering as a teaching team to learn more. And then this year we've worked with Learning Matters closely with them for our 0 to 2 team. So we've kind of implemented it in the junior school, and that's been amazing. And again, the data is just so exciting and shows the change that we've made. But also what we did is we identified throughout the school actually children that were struggling, because what happened is the senior teachers went, oh, what are you doing? Oh, that looks we want to know about that spelling, we want to know about that. So we ended up assessing the whole school, and from that data we identified some children who we went, this isn't great, they shouldn't be here. And so this year throughout lockdown, online we've actually and in person been doing intervention with those children. So we've trained up our learning assistants, and I've been working with the children online, teaching year 3, 4 and 5, which if I'm honest I was a little bit scared about because I love the 5-year-olds, but actually it was the most amazing learning for me, and teaching them. So although it was only junior school, it actually has gone throughout the whole school, and because of the difference it's making and learning, it's quite, the excitement has spread. And so next year again we're with Learning Matters and Ideal, and we're working whole school next year.
Exciting. Yeah. One of the things that I just want to stop and sit in the place of for a moment is around what's different about this. Like if we could come up with 1, 2 or 3 key things that is different about this from other, like I often hear comments like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. This too will pass. We're going to look back. Oh, I've done that phonics thing before and it didn't work for me. So what is different? I've got my words for why it's different. I'm going to go to you ladies first. You're all clearly just as passionate about this as I am and what my colleagues are. You're seeing very, very tangible results in your students through increased student engagement, I'm going to say, and really, really good data that shows they can read sound, they can spell sound, they can read words, they can spell words, they can read sentences, they can write sentences, they can read texts, and they're beginning to write, longer passages themselves. So what is it that's really different here? What is the key difference in this type of professional learning compared to what we've had before? And that's just an open question. You go, Megan.
It's based on the evidence. So for me, it was knowing that this really was working because we knew now how the brain worked. I was one of those teachers who always thought that a child who came to school from a home that was rich in books, rich in language, rich in experiences, they would just learn to read because they spoke well. So it was such huge news to me to learn that we actually learned to read from the left side of our brain and all of those connections that needed to be made. So that would be my number 1 thing. And my number 2 would be that we know what to do. So following a scope and sequence, we know what comes next. We know that by assessing the children, that if they haven't got it, we know where to go where to go to from there. We know, I know how much phonological awareness and phonemic awareness is the platform for better the ability to learn to read. So that's stuff that I did not know before, and that's what's made the difference.
I think the children too know that they know what's coming. So even though you're working with the set, scope and sequence, the familiarity of the structures of the lessons is there for them. You're not wasting any time having a amazing whiz bang kind of different lesson. You know exactly what the structure is going to be. The new learning is with the new concept, and you can get started and engage with that new content, and that's a sense of security for children as well. So a great sense of pride for them when they can do it.
So Kieran, would you say that when you embark on professional learning in structured literacy, it's about building teacher knowledge and also improving teacher practice?
Absolutely, it's a combination.
It's not one or the other, is it? We have to have the two to get those ultimate outcomes.
Absolutely, and teachers like to know why they do things. So if you have the evidence and you have the why, then you need to know how to go about doing that. The results come after that, and then you can't stop yourself. It just becomes, it builds on itself. We have constant conversations in our staff room around concepts, spelling, writing, non-stop. Look what I found, and it's all evidence-based. That it's just an incredible sense of we're all on this journey together. A lot of passionate people. I think it's a groundswell actually around the country as well.
Totally, yeah.
But I also think teachers have to be brave, because we have to first admit we don't know all of this. And so we have to be willing to learn it, and we might not understand some of these spelling rules or how to explain it or what the why behind it, but actually being brave to go, actually, I need to do some learning myself, and then doing that and using it, and then you see it working is actually really exciting. And children love the routine and the safety of what's happening because it's explicit, and they are being well supported to be successful with what they're doing. You're not asking them questions, and 5-year-olds aren't sitting there, I don't know how to read, because you're ensuring they have all the steps to be able to read before they do it.
And when you bring in that word explicit, for those people that are listening, what Teresa is meaning is she's meaning, to speak the words of Dr. Anita Archer, is that we teach in a way that our children will get it. And what I observe in all of these amazing teachers across the country who are doing this on the classroom floor is that their practice is really explicit. They feel empowered, because it's like you've all of a sudden give them this dose of knowing how to teach, myself included. And I think it's really empowering for the teachers. They have a very positive aura, and then the students engage with them because, like you said, Kieran, they know that sequence, they know what's coming, and they're really able to lean into the increasing complexity of the learning. Do you have anything that you want to add to that, Julie, in terms of how it's different? What is it about it that's different?
I can see that it leaves no student behind, and I think that's such an important thing for all our learners, that we are able to cater for all learners. And through the explicit teaching, through the increased teacher knowledge, and as the other ladies have said, this has been a huge learning curve for teachers. Teachers have been out of their comfort zone. All of a sudden they realise there is a lot that they don't know about teaching reading and writing, and how that it's coming through in the scope and sequence and the spelling. So that in itself is a huge journey, but leaving no student behind is really such a gratifying feeling.
It is, it really is. And everybody deserves the right to learn to read, know. Everybody does deserve to go through their schooling and come out the other end literate. That's what the schooling system is there for.
And it's there for everybody. Everybody has an equal opportunity.
Yeah. And so just thinking then about, because we know that for all of us, when we did our teacher training, we know that we didn't learn about how the brain learns to read. We were all taught based on if I think back to the information that was in the effective literacy practice book and the reading in junior classes, they would have probably been the two key Bibles that our course content was created from when we were doing our teacher training. And so for those teachers that are sitting out there, I often see that they experience a great deal of grief when they realise that they didn't they weren't taught this stuff. Is that what you see too when you're going through this transition phase of implementing structured literacy and building professional knowledge? Do you experience teachers in your schools feel a little bit disheartened and disappointed, and I'm going to say ripped off?
And I also think that we all have that child that we couldn't help, that we tried and we did everything, and we just think, what if we knew what we knew now, what would have happened?
Exactly.
No. So
And
you
say that with such conviction, Teresa, and that's just something that I love about structured literacy, is because I often say to people, nobody can take this away from me ever. I am now forever going to be a great teacher of reading.
Totally.
And not that I'm ready for grandies, but I can't wait till it happens.
Yeah.
Because we have dyslexia in our family, and so when it does happen, we're going to be so much more equipped for working with those little people if that's how they present. Totally. So for you, Julie, what was sort of your reasoning behind choosing to go forward with the ideal approach in Learning Matters?
I think that after hearing you and doing a little bit of research, the evidence-based learning that we could create throughout a school, and being able to choose the ideal approach that was going to cater for every staff member in the school. And I truly believe that everybody needed to be on board. And yes, some people took longer, and that's just human nature. But I'm actually really proud of our staff.
And you should be.
They have embraced this. They've done a huge amount of learning, and we've had beginning teachers who have come from college and have never heard of it, no idea. And I know that you had said this, Carla, after one of your visits, that those new teachers had embraced this learning and were just racing ahead with it.
Absolutely.
See that in the school. We can see that in our talk in the staff room and at our team meetings, that it's the focal point of our learning throughout the school. And I don't know about other schools, but I felt that we were so ready to have something else to give us the drive and the ability and the knowledge to be able to deliver to our students the very best.
Awesome. What about for you, Teresa?
So we had worked with Better Start. As I said, we've done lots with Liz Kane as well. And probably when my principal and I looked at the different approaches and what we were looking for, Ideal offered to me the best support with professional development, with resourcing, with books, all in one package, because teachers are busy. This is a new thing they have to learn. You've got to reduce the barriers, and you've got to give as much as you can to help them feel successful, so that they can see, oh, when I do this, this is making a difference. So, we did look at it really carefully, but I just think, I love the planning, the support that's there. It's taking time away from teachers where before, or you're doing lots of time planning or making resources and all these things. Actually, their time and their energy can be used on teaching. And I think that's a huge advantage.
And if I could just also agree with that, I think probably for our staff, they couldn't believe that planning was done for them. It was like, after all of this time, it's right there. You don't have to do anything else. It's there for you. And that's been a huge benefit for staff.
And I just want to share that the reason we do that in the Ideal approach is because one of the biggest challenges is around building consistency of practice in schools. And so we are very, very passionate about building a consistent evidence-based educational pathway for students. And so the way to do that fundamentally is to ensure that there's shared understandings and teacher knowledge, and then there's consistency of teaching practice and delivery of what that teaching practice looks like. So we don't we don't plan those lesson plans for teachers to take away the personality of the teacher. The teacher
No.
very much still is able to be themselves through that lesson. In fact, I don't think that any two teachers would necessarily completely deliver them the same. But the feedback we get is very, very positive around how it helps them to be able to really get in and learn that content knowledge throughout the scope and sequence to a much deeper level, and to learn that lesson sequence down pat too, because the automaticity of the lesson sequence is something that I see that takes quite some time to really, really develop. So let's now shift our thinking to about strategically leading through change. So this is an area that I have huge interest in, and I'm really, really passionate about change leadership in schools and the process that we go through when we're really trying to go from that place of developing to embedding to sustaining a change within the school. And so if I was to think about each one of your schools, I would be able to come up with this where I would say we're developing the practice is embedded, or the practice is being sustained, and you're all in different places in your journey. So I know in my work with you, Kieran, at Ladbrokes, that you definitely are in that place of sustaining your practice, and the behaviours that we see around the collaboration and the talks over the teacups. You have a curriculum implementation plan that completely reflects structured literacy. You have aligned intervention all the way through, but you've been on this journey for a lot longer, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. So what I want us to think about in each of your settings now is, what are the things that you strategically do to lead through this change from the ground floor?
Shall I jump in?
Great, thanks, Kieran.
Well, one of the things that we did, right, we started pre-platform. So I think that from a strategy point of view, it was around, I mean, it does require some resourcing. So the board was supportive of us embarking on this, and it does take some money. So and just in the commitment to looking ahead for several years, to understand that it is going to take some time. The commitment to everyone being on board as well, taking everyone on the journey, was strategically thought about as well. We prioritized it for several years. We made our connections with yourself, but we also with, I think, the key elements of the content, and we really needed to understand what was most important to include. And we needed to get our families on board too. So we wanted to take our time to make sure that our families understood why we were making this change. At the time, it was almost like bucking the trend, not with recommended teaching practices, if you like, even though we knew that there was a different way and we wanted to proceed with that. We knew that that was based on the evidence and the science, and we're committed in our own minds. Taking the families with us gently was so important. So we ran workshops to do that, just to sort of cover the key content so they could understand, not necessarily the whole picture, why we wanted to do that. Make that
What about for you, Megan, at Martinborough? What were some of the things that you did when you were embarking sort of particularly on that whole school approach? What did you do around sort of leading strategically into and then kind of beginning to be through that change?
Yeah. Well, we had a group of teachers who were very passionate, who had already begun a structured literacy way of teaching. And so we formed a structured literacy focus group. So we've got a team of teachers, teachers from all levels of the school. And so we do a lot of our planning, a lot of our looking after, a lot of supporting comes through that focus group. And then for next year, we've actually, we've brought on the role of a structured literacy leader, and I've won that role, the structured literacy leader.
Awesome,
so
congratulations.
What we've done is we've given it 100% commitment in terms of all our PD, and I think that's been huge. So whilst it's a lot for teachers, because we're still at the stage where they're doing a lot of readings, they're learning a lot of new ways of teaching and learning a lot of spelling rules and a lot of rules around the concepts. So we're there to support them, and we can sort of ease their way through with the learning of all that they've got to learn, and with a lot of the background reading that they need to do.
Brilliant.
So
Thanks for
next year
sharing that. Yeah.
I have a day a week where that will be completely my focus. So I think it's a very sort of an unquantifiable role in terms of what might be expected of me and from me, but we'll see. I think it's a great step, and it shows the commitment that comes from the leadership and from our board of trustees.
Absolutely.
This is the way forward. Yeah,
I think it's so important to build that internal support for a sustainability factor, you know, where I think about where you guys have got to, Kieran. We need these pillars. So if we imagine the house or the whare, we need actual strong walls to hold the roof upright, you know, otherwise it's going to cave in. And so you ladies become those platforms or those internal walls to hold that roof up. What about for you, Teresa?
So we've made it, it's interesting because I'm thinking, like, we've had the direction that, you know, our principal has said this is what we will be doing. We are a structured literacy school. But then I think there's lots of clever things we have done, because you can tell everyone everything, but actually you need people to be excited by change and want to go move with it. Absolutely lots of communication with the board, and lots of talking to them about the science, sharing videos about how the brain learns to read, and sharing data with them, which has then obviously meant financial support for the change that it's made. We also invested, I think, really wisely in a range of decodables. And I say that because I think teachers are very used traditionally to going into a book room and choosing from different books. And so if we had said you're only using this one Sunshine or Little Learners, you know, teachers already feel that choice is being taken away. So we made sure we had a range for teachers. So that was a big expense. Sharing the data of our intervention children who were making gains sometimes of 400%, you know, 200%. You can't sit and look at that data in a staff meeting, because we all know those children, and not be excited by that change. We also, in our new entrant team, we do a reading evening every term. We'd done that for years, but then when we learnt about structured literacy, we straight away shared that information with parents and upskilled them with the knowledge. We took videos of the children blending and segmenting. We had copies of their writing with this amazing spelling. And I kind of think the data and some of that real evidence where you see these children sounding out and writing amazing words and using spelling rules at 5 excites parents and excites teachers. And so I think it's kind of like, look, not every teacher is absolutely, there are teachers that are still on the journey for structured literacy, absolutely, but the evidence, the research, the evidence in school, it's all building up a picture for those teachers that's very clear that this is what we're doing and we'll be continuing to do. So
yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing those tidbits. That's great. What about for you, Julie?
I think for us, when we began our journey, was to have you and your facilitators coming into the school and being face to face with the staff, and through your absolute passion and excitement and enthusiasm, that then generated the interest and the spark and the ability to think, yes, we can change, we can do this. And, you know, like what has been said, not everybody is on board straight away. But it's a journey, and it's a gradual journey, and we've been on that gradual journey. But being fortunate enough to have you in the school regularly and give feedback to teachers that feedback is so important for
Mm.
them to know that they themselves are on the right journey, let alone the students. When it's a huge change for teachers who have been teaching whole language for years and years and years. So I think face to face, and it was 100% commitment for our whole staff. So whole staff PD, and it has been our sole PD for the last 2 years. And that's been amazing, and really appreciate the board for the commitment that they've made for us to be able to do this. Has been great. And just, I think the absolute joy that you see from the students, it's just
pretty cool, isn't it?
It's so cool. Yeah.
So there's a couple of things from what you ladies have said that I just want to pick up, and this is my very first one. It's okay that not everybody's right up the front carriage in the driver's seat of the train, right? So many of you will have heard me talking about this train of change, and we have 3 carriages generally in our train of change. We have those people who are in the front carriage, and they are so far up the driver's jacksie that they are like totally ready to take charge of the train because they're so excited. I think that's where you 4 ladies probably were. And then we have people who are in the middle carriage, and they're sort of looking forward into the front train, but into the front carriage, but they're also looking into the back carriage. So they might be otherwise termed as our fence sitters. They're not sure if they're going to jump into that front carriage of committing wholeheartedly, or jumping into the back carriage, which may have otherwise been our carriage of potential resistors, or on the other side of the fence, or, not really sure about this, look, I've seen that many changes in education. I don't know if I can go through another one. And rightly so, we do experience a lot of change. I want to pick up on that piece that many of you said about your staff being in different places, and just share that that's okay. And in my experience, the more people that are in the back carriage and the middle carriage, although it's frustrating for you as you begin this journey, boy, it makes us work harder. It makes us all work harder. It makes us reflect. It makes us hone our communication skills. It makes us lean into our coaching conversations and really support those people and understand more so why they're sitting in the place they're sitting. So for those of us that are operating in a space of change leadership, which is all of you here and many, many other people out there listening, understand that those people help us to be better practitioners. So don't walk away from that, because it really, really can be beneficial. The second thing I want to bring up is around a coaching process. So one thing that I will share, not in your schools, but there are some schools that we do go into that are not familiar with the culture of coaching, and they are certainly not familiar with the culture of teachers being observed during their teaching. And so one of the biggest challenges that we see more often than not is that teachers aren't really okay with being observed in their practice, and they may not have had those coaching conversations go on. So just very quickly, can I go to you, Kieran, and ask, do you see that there has been a positive impact in terms of the culture of observation and coaching across the curriculum as a result of the work you've done in structured literacy?
I think teachers are more open to sharing, putting themselves on the line, sharing their practice, knowing that there's a supportive person there who is also open to feedback and being observed, and it's okay not to be right all the time. I definitely think that we're also doing work in science and digital technology and maths, and I think we can take a lot of lessons from structured literacy and actually apply them across the curriculum. But definitely I think the coaching model, provided you have a culture as we do of mutually respectful relationships, it's great. It's great to be observed. It's great to observe and learn from others, no matter where you are on the journey.
And we can do that from a place of being really kind, caring, considerate, and collaborative. And I think once people are in that space and they see that, it's actually really, really rewarding. I learn just as much as I do from reading and watching others. You just learn so much all the time from seeing other people teach, and from people giving me feedback from when I teach too, which I really love. One last thing I want to touch on in terms of leading through change before we move to our next question is, some of you are from very big schools, and you must have some fairly significant staff changes occur on an annual or, every now and then. So inducting new staff must be something that's really important when you're wanting to maintain consistent practice, yeah?
Definitely.
So can we just sort of touch on what are some things that you do to ensure that you do induct people well? And I'm going to go to you, Julie, because I know this is really sitting on top for you going into next year.
Yes, so beginning of this year, we had several new staff members. So I ran 2 days of induction for the new staff, plus a couple of our regular relievers, because that's also another aspect where we have relievers come into the school, and we want structured literacy to continue. We want their spelling to continue, and their reading and writing in the structured literacy way. So being able to give relievers some insight into the why and the how has been really important for our school. And then again, at the beginning of next year, we will have 9 new staff members. So planning another couple of days with Carla's support through webinars to go through with them, and we'll do it as a group so that we can stop, have a chat. I think that was something I learnt last year, at the beginning of this year, that it was important to stop, talk about it, ask them, let them ask questions and clarify things, because obviously it's a pretty big, there's a lot of brain overload when you're sitting there listening to it all. So, and then once they got into the classrooms and they're teaching, I did some observations just so I could give some reflective feedback to them and feed forward, and happy for them to observe myself, they were happy to do some observations in other classrooms, and those that were really more secure with their practice in the classrooms, they were happy to have others observe them. So that's been a great thing for us. There's always questions. I'm always getting questions, and if I don't know, of course I have to ask you or Marion. But yeah, it's
thanks,
to
Julie.
make it sustainable throughout the school.
Yeah, we've got to keep it going, and
it has, no matter how many new staff come in, we need to make it sustainable, and we need to keep driving it.
What about for you, Kieran? Any induction tips for you guys when you experience staff changes? How do you manage that?
We have been fairly lucky, although some of our learning assistants, who are highly trained and fantastic practitioners, had some in and outs throughout the year with those folk. And so we did a similar thing where we just spent some time even just going over the basics of what sounds that are in the alphabet. How do we actually say sounds? What are the voiced? What are the unvoiced? And even just from there, I think people's world is just blown apart. And then there's a few light bulb moments, and people just get very excited about wanting to know more. We just follow obviously we have the platform now, which is highly helpful. Just having a time to spend some time together, We've done it in just a small group, one-on-one or a couple just at a time with me. Having the chance to observe, really important. And then just really valuing the questions that come. The questions follow very quickly after you start your practice. It's like, oh my goodness, I thought I had this, and then a child asked me something. And just being there to support, just being available. We've found that it's taken a wee bit of time, but as staff get into it, they just they become very passionate very quickly, because they see the engagement of the students and the positive effect it's having on their confidence.
Awesome. Let's go to our next question now. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds. I'm just conscious of the time, or your time. So I know one of you is still at school. What can you tell us in 30 seconds about what you are doing, have done, or will do to align classroom practice to intervention and structured literacy? So what have you done, are you doing, or will you do to align classroom practice to intervention? And I'm going to go to you first, Teresa.
30 seconds. Okay. What I think we have done, that's all right. I think we have worked with our learning assistants well, ensured that they understand, they've all done the modules, they understand about the why behind how the brain learns to read. We've given them a framework to work from. We've observed them. We've got them working with the same children time after time, and they're reinforcing what's happening with classroom practice. We're also giving them time to meet and to talk. And so what we've developed is a group of highly skilled learning assistants who are working with those children who are needing intervention. But what I've seen from just this year alone is actually we're filling those gaps. Some of those children were just missing some really important things, like the correct sounds that vowels make. And actually now they have that secure coming into the classroom and working with those, they're not sitting so outside of where they need to be now. So it's ensuring that the people working with those children have as good an understanding as the classroom teacher. It's based on data, and that they are getting the same good support that the teachers are getting as well, with modelling and feedback and a chance to ask questions and in a safe place, I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, because there's some very, very, very skilled learning assistants across this country right now.
And very excited ones.
Yeah. What about for you, Megan?
We're the same. So our teacher aides have done an incredible job. They've worked with small groups. They've repeated lessons that they've seen the classroom teachers do, and then they've taken those children on, and most of them have kept the same children throughout the year. And what's been exciting is being able to share the assessments that we've done on those children with their teacher aide who's been allocated to them. And it gives them, those wonderful people, the pluses and the kudos that they need, because they have made the difference with those little kids. And to see them all talking amongst themselves about the progress that their children have made has been really heartwarming, because they are completely on board. And like probably everyone else, we're just so blessed with amazing teacher aides who work with us.
Awesome. What about you, Julie?
So I've run the intervention myself for our Tier 3 students, and I'll continue that on next year. But we are going to be very fortunate next year to have two teachers, one working from year 0 to 4 and one working from 5 to 8 as support teachers for either structured literacy or maths. So the students, probably the Tier 2 students, will once again get another revisit to where they are in their classroom and the concepts they're working on I think one thing that I don't know if other schools do, but what we have done is in each team, we have differentiated our learners so that the teachers are only teaching one concept to a group of students. So they take those students through. So they're a mixture of students from, say, year 1 and 2, or from 3 and 4, and right through to 7 and 8. And they are following those students through on their journey of learning. And the students that I have in my intervention group are obviously in one group during their spelling time. So that means that I can have a good rapport with that teacher and keep in close contact. And I think that has worked quite successfully within the school. And for our spelling time, we start at 9 o'clock throughout the school, apart from our year 7 and 8s who are straight after lunch, just to fit in with their timetable. But I also think that has been a really consistent thing for us at our school, and I'm hopeful that will continue, that teachers will be happy. They like it, they love it. And
brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, Kieran, let's go to you.
We've I think embedded our tier 2 level support now. It's been going for the last year. So teachers are teaching the set concept based on where children are at 4 times a week in set groups. The tier 2 is following that concept. So children at tier 2 are getting 4 times a week plus 2 additional half-hour small group sessions with a trained learning assistant. We've seen results that I guess we dreamed to see. Children who are exceeding the tier 1 now, and we've discontinued because they have not caught up exactly, but their confidence is at a level that, some of the data is actually exceeding the results of the children. So just amazing. And it feels like even if I left, it would, this is embedded into our school. We're looking at ways to use this explicit type approach in other areas. We're super excited and feel like the structures have caught up with the amount of time we've been doing it. So
yes,
true tier 2, true tier 3, true tier 1, everyone on board. So it's just amazing.
Well done. It takes time, right? It takes a few years, but it's totally doable, and the difference you make is just, it's incredible. Yeah. And I think, Kieran, right back to that very first parent workshop that I held at Ladbrokes, which was really, a little favor that I asked of Penny all those years ago, and that little dot that we assessed to highlight to parents the importance of phonological awareness. And I know that she, is quite dyslexic, but I also know that she is making really, really great progress, and that might have been a really different picture had you not gone on the journey that you have. So it's super exciting. Yeah. So ladies, to sort of wind up our chat this evening, if you could forward your wisdom to other people and give them recommendations for those who are embarking on a structured literacy journey or about to embark on a structured literacy journey, what do you think your number one or couple of recommendations would be for them to lead through this change and implement structured literacy in their school setting? Teresa?
I think number one, always go from your data, because your data will show undeniable evidence of the change that's being made, and the research will. And I also think it isn't going to be easy, but great things never are, and you've just got to persist. And if you ever lose your way a little bit, go back to the research, read, re-listen, talk to other people, and you will know why you're doing this. Work with those children. So keep your belief strong and your understanding strong and what you know, and use your data to back that up.
Thanks, Megan.
I'd say the same, persist, just keep persisting. I've got a little learner who I've worked with for 18 months now, who I was almost at the stage where I was going to say maybe he's one of those 2% who will never learn to read. And he now has his CV and VC words, and we're on a journey. We're on our way. And it's that makes you know that you're doing the right thing, and that you really just have to keep on trucking on.
And you're dead right. And I just want to say to you, Megan, don't stop.
No.
You know, some as fast as we can and as slow as we must, and as long as we need to add to that too. You know, I know my own son would have been one of those, as long as we need to, students, even with structured literacy. So yeah, well done. Go you. Julie.
I agree with the other ladies, but I must say that it just has to be slow and steady and small steps, and expect to make some mistakes and have to go back and reflect and try again. And it's not a race. We'll all get there in the end. And the reward is when you see those students and they're getting those words, that their confidence is just absolutely rocketing, and the data just proves it. So slow and steady, and just get everybody on board, your school community and your staff, get them all on board and just move forward slowly.
Kieran.
Nothing really to add. I just think everyone summed it up beautifully. I agree around the speed. Expect the huge down the rabbit hole pedagogical shift, turning yourself upside down, and then just being very, very excited, the excitement of everyone, channeling that's, you know, just hugely exciting. Just really, I guess, having that science background, being able to go to the research and look at the many years of backing that this has, and just believing that in the process and going for it.
Awesome. One thing that I would like to add is that leadership matters. And that what we observe is that in schools where we have a pillar of strength, we have a leader who is really passionate about driving this forward, we see shift in student outcomes and shift in teacher knowledge and practice that is much faster and much more significant than if we don't have those people positioned in those areas. So with that in mind, I'd like to express my thanks to the 4 ladies who have joined me for this chit chat this evening, because every single one of you has been very pivotal in the shift that you have created in your place, and you're now here this evening helping me to be pivotal in creating that bigger shift right across the country. So thank you all so much for taking the time out of your evening just before Christmas, in the 11th hour of the school term, in a year that has been second to none in terms of craziness. So I really commend you all. I commend you for your commitment to structured literacy. I commend you to your commitment to your place and your passion, and your unrelenting desire also to learn and to help others in your place. It is absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. For those that have watched tonight's chit chat, thank you for joining us. I hope that you've taken away some pearls of wisdom from these incredibly talented ladies. Next year, we'll be back with another full series of chit chats. We've got a lineup of incredible international experts for you again. Keep an eye out in January, when we will be posting the first couple of months as to who I'm going to be connecting with to bring some more fantastic evidence-based goodness to probably your lounge areas, because I'm thinking it's going to be in the evening time. It's very difficult to cram everything in. So yeah, wishing you all a very, very safe and Merry Christmas. And thanks again to these 4 wonderful ladies who have joined us this evening. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.